What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Lions video. Now today we are going to be talking about a potential trade candidate for the Detroit Lions. Now, Arizona Cardinals outside linebacker slash edge rusher Chandler Jones has really shown his disagreement and has really shown his unhappiness with the Cardinals organization and has since requested a trade away from Arizona. Now, Chandler Jones has been unhappy with his contract situation for a couple of years at this point and really just hasn't been all that happy with the Cardinals organization as a whole. Now today we're going to be talking about Chandler Jones, his past, what he's done for the Cardinals, what he did for the Patriots, his career accolades, what he could bring to the Detroit Lions, and whether or not the Detroit Lions should give up some draft capital in order to acquire the all-pro pass rusher. Now, before we get into the video, before we start talking about Christian Jones, his strengths, his weaknesses, and why or why not the Lions should be trading for him, if you are new to the channel and you are enjoying the content, please consider liking the videos and subscribe to the channel. It takes just 2 seconds out of you to do so. It's quick, it's free, and it is incredibly easy to do, and you would be helping the channel out more than you could possibly know. So if you could do that, take those 2 seconds to like and subscribe. I'd be very appreciative for it. But with all that being said, without any further ado, let's get right into talking about Chandler Jones and the potential trade candidate for the Detroit Lions.
So we get Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
Now, in my opinion, Chandler Jones is one of the truly underrated players in the NFL. The 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, and Super Bowl champion is a player that has been one of the most consistent pass rushers and consistently good pass rushers over the past decade or so in the NFL. He has 6+ seasons of 10+ sack production, and in 2019 finished as an All-Pro, totaling 53 total tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 26 quarterback hits, 19 quarterback sacks, 8 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, and 5 passes defended, playing that outside linebacker position. Now, Chandler Jones did not play very well a season ago and did not play very often a season ago. Chandler Jones only ended up playing in 5 games and totaled just 1 sack in those 5 games early in the season, although he was dealing with injuries while he played and, of course, eventually suffered an injury that finished his 2020 NFL campaign. Now, the only times in his NFL career that Chandler Jones has not gotten a 10+ sack season, the 3 times where he has not reached the 10 sack mark, are the 3 seasons that he did not complete because of injuries. His rookie season, he did not play 16 games and finished with 6 sacks. His 3rd season, he did not finish the NFL season and finished with 6 sacks. And of course, last season, he only ended up playing in 5 games and only eventually got to the quarterback 1 single time. But in all of the seasons where he did end up playing and starting 16 games, whether it be for the Patriots or for the Arizona Cardinals, he has totaled 10+ sacks and has had several seasons above 15 sacks, which is, again, all-pro caliber pass rusher, which is exactly what he is. Now, we all know that the Detroit Lions have really been struggling in the pass rush department, really since Ziggy Ansah left, but more so since the 2014 season, after that dominant defensive line kind of broke up after Ndamukong Suh decided to sign with the Miami Dolphins over the Detroit Lions. The versatile Chandler Jones would come in and be a huge upgrade for the Detroit Lions at any position. Throughout his NFL career, Chandler Jones has played at the defensive tackle position, the defensive end position, and of course, most recently, the outside linebacker position, which coincidentally enough is the position where our primary edge rushers in Julian and Romeo Okwara, and of course, Trey Flowers and Austin Bryant are going to be playing a majority of their snaps. Now, Chandler Jones has been a productive veteran everywhere he has been, whether it be in New England, whether it be in Arizona, whether it be a defensive tackle, defensive end, or outside linebacker. He has been productive at each and every position in each and every defensive scheme in both of his locations where he has played. And as we know from this offseason, versatility is a very, very big part of the defense that Aaron Glenn is looking to run in Detroit. You look at guys like Levi Onwuzurike, Aleem McNeil, Michael Brockers, Deshaun Hand, Romeo Okwara, and Trey Flowers can all play multiple positions on the defensive line. Some of them will play outside linebackers. Sometimes our two outside linebackers will slide inside to be defensive ends. Obviously, Levi can play defensive end or defensive tackle. You have a guy like Michael Brockers who can play any position on the defensive line. Deshaun Hand can play inside or he can play outside depending on what he wants. And I think you're going to see a lot of these players, all 6 of these players, rotate in at different positions at time, depending obviously on down, distance, and obviously situational awareness on the field. Depending on the situation, depending on the time, and obviously the score and down at distance, you're going to see all of these players rotate around the defensive line. And if it's a pass rushing down, I think you're going to see players like obviously Trey Flowers on the outside and Romeo Okwara on the outside being edge rushers. If it's more of a rundown, I think you could see Trey Flowers kind of kick inside to more of a defensive end and maybe bump out a player like Michael Brockers. It's really going to be a rotation. I think it's really going to be a big part of the Lions defense is rotating that defensive line, rotating them to different positions and rotating them in and out to keep everybody fresh and really just being able to kind of match any offensive structure that the opponents are trying to run on you. And, you look at all those players and Chandler Jones is versatile enough to fit into this defense. Again, he can play anything from defensive tackle all the way outside to outside linebacker and be productive all over the field. Now, the Detroit Lions have 2 open roster spots. They were at 89 a few days ago, and then with the retirement of defensive tackle Brian Price, they obviously opened up a secondary spot, now having just 88 players on the active roster. Obviously, with the Detroit Lions losing a trench player, I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and try to get another player to be productive for them in the trenches, or at least compete for an opportunity to play on that defensive line. And Chandler Jones, of course, does fit that mold. He is a trench player, is a pass rusher, and is a guy that, again, can play any position on the defensive line at a very high Pro Bowl, All-Pro caliber level. The Detroit Lions also have the capital, being whether it be draft capital or cap space, to acquire Chandler Jones. They have a multitude of draft picks early in the 2022 NFL draft, and they also have over $17 million in cap space, which is more than enough to equal and more than enough to pay Chandler Jones the contract that he is owed this season with the Arizona Cardinals. So with that being said, there's just a few questions you have to ask about Chandler Jones. The first one, would Chandler Jones improve this Detroit Lions roster? The answer is very clearly yes. Every time a team, whether it be the Detroit Lions, the Jacksonville Jaguars, or the Kansas City Chiefs, added all-pro caliber talent, the team is going to get better. So I have no doubt that Chandler Jones is going to make the Lions a better roster if he were to be traded to Detroit. But the other question is, will Chandler Jones move the needle for Detroit and put them in the playoffs? As of right now, I look at the Detroit Lions as a 7 to 8 win team, obviously depending on how well they do versus the Green Bay Packers, right? I think obviously if they can beat the Green Bay Packers, that's your 8th win, and if they can't beat the Green Bay Packers, if they get swept, that's your 7-win season. I think they're kind of sitting in that 7 to 8 win margin as of right now, and Chandler Jones, I think, could win them an extra game or two, putting them at 8 wins or 9 wins, but I don't think that would be good enough to make the NFL playoffs. And if it is, it's only good enough to make it as maybe the 6th or borderline the 7th NFC seed, which at the end of the day isn't really, I think, that valuable for the Detroit Lions, right? If you're going to give up draft capital, obviously making the playoffs would be very nice your first year, but who's to say that Chandler Jones is even going to play at a high level next year, coming off a big time injury, going into a season where he will turn 32? Who's to say that he's going to keep up the same production that he has in the past? And that's the other question, is how long will Chandler Jones continue to play at this high level? Will he be an all-pro caliber pass rusher next year? Will he be an all-pro caliber pass rusher in 2022 when the Detroit Lions actually start building a really solid structure and when they actually start getting in pieces that are going to help them win a lot of football games? By the time the Lions become a competitive football team, will Chandler Jones be an all-pro caliber pass rusher, and will he still be the same guy that can help them win 8 And will he be the same guy that can help the Lions win 10, 11, or maybe even 12 plus games in 2022? That is a question that has to be asked, and that is a question that is incredibly difficult to answer. And then, of course, at the same time, you also have to evaluate the price, right? How much are you going to give away for a guy that's 31? How much are you willing to risk in draft capital in order to pay Chandler Jones, in order to acquire Chandler Jones and get a player that is coming off injury and is a little bit older and probably won't be here for the long term? For me, there's a lot of really positives and there's a lot of negatives to take away from this, and there's a lot of different ways you can look at this situation. You can look at it if you're an optimistic fan as, yeah, Chandler Jones could potentially put us in the playoffs, could potentially win us an extra game or two and put us into that 8 to 9 win category, which would maybe be enough to sneak into the wild card. Or you could look at it as Chandler Jones is old, coming off of injury, and although he's a great player still, there's no denying that, of course, even though he's a great player, is he a player that's going to help the Detroit Lions win long term? And the answer to that is probably no. It's obviously likely that as age comes with him, and as he ages, and as he kind of comes back off an injury-riddled season, he's not going to be the same Chandler Jones that he was in 2019. He's not going to be the all-pro caliber pass rusher for 5, 6, 7 years down the line. And for all we know, Chandler Jones may be playing his last NFL season right now. So with that being said, I think there's a lot of positives and a lot of negatives with this hypothetical, and I would like to hear what you guys think down in the comments below about a potential trade for Chandler Jones. Would you trade for him? What would you give up for the all-pro pass rusher, and would he help the Detroit Lions enough in order to justify a trade? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. But with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions!